What would you do if faced with impossible odds, and yet, through unwavering faith, you witnessed the undeniable power of God? The story of the Shunammite woman is nothing short of extraordinary. It's a tale of generosity, miracles, and resilience that reveals how God's power moves in unimaginable ways. But here's the truth: her journey wasn't easy. She faced heartbreak and challenges that would have shattered most, yet she stood firm, trusting in the promises of God. 2 Kings 4 shows us a woman whose simple act of hospitality opened the door to divine miracles. From the miraculous birth of a son to the unthinkable tragedy of his death, her faith was tested time and time again. And when she sought restoration, she didn't just regain what was lost. She experienced God's justice and abundance like never before. Imagine being in her place, watching the impossible unfold before your eyes. Her story is more than an inspiring account. It's a powerful reminder of what happens when faith meets action. Are you ready to uncover how this woman's unwavering belief revealed God's limitless power? Stay with us, because what you'll discover might just redefine your understanding of faith and miracles. The story of the Shunammite woman exemplifies the transformative power of generosity. In 2 Kings 4 verses 8 to 10, her decision to prepare a room for the prophet Elisha reflected a heart willing to serve God's purposes. This wasn't just about hospitality. It was an act of faith that aligned her life with divine blessings. Think of moments when you've extended kindness to others, even in small ways, and the unexpected rewards that followed. Generosity, when rooted in faith, opens the door to God's miracles. Generosity goes beyond material acts. It's a reflection of trust in God's provision. The Shunammite woman's actions showed her belief that caring for a servant of God could lead to something greater. Similarly, when you give your time, resources, or attention to others, it demonstrates faith in God's abundance. Imagine volunteering at a local shelter or supporting someone in need. It's not just a gesture, but a testament to God's goodness. This story reminds us that generosity sets the stage for God's power to work in extraordinary ways. Just as the Shunammite woman's kindness prepared her for a miracle, acts of faith today can lead to blessings that defy human understanding. Her journey unfolds further when Elisha prophesies an unimaginable gift, a glimpse into how faith yields divine promises. The Shunammite woman's story takes an extraordinary turn when Elisha promises her a son. In 2 Kings 4 verse 16, Elisha declares, "About this time next year, you will hold a son in your arms." This promise defied logic, as she had no children and her husband was old. Yet, it revealed the power of God to fulfill what seemed impossible. Imagine hearing such news after years of longing. It's a reminder that faith can open doors that no human effort could. Her initial disbelief didn't stop God's plan. The birth of her son was a tangible manifestation of divine power. This teaches us that miracles don't depend on our complete understanding, but on God's unlimited authority. In life, trusting God's timing, even when it doesn't align with our expectations, can lead to blessings we never imagined. Think of moments when patience and faith brought unexpected joy. This miraculous birth also symbolizes the relationship between faith and God's promises. The Shunammite woman's hospitality prepared her for a gift she didn't even request. Similarly, acts of faith today, whether small or grand, can lead to blessings beyond our dreams. This was just the beginning of her journey, as her faith would soon face an even greater test. The joy of the Shunammite woman was short-lived when her son suddenly died in her arms. In 2 Kings 4 verse 20, the child's unexpected death became a heart-wrenching test of her faith. Yet, instead of surrendering to despair, she chose resilience, believing that God's power could still intervene. Imagine facing such a loss and still holding on to hope. It's a testament to unwavering trust in God's ability to work miracles even in the darkest moments. Her response to this tragedy was remarkable. She didn't waste time in self-pity or spreading her grief to others. Instead, She laid her son on Elisha's bed and prepared to seek the prophet directly. This act demonstrates the importance of focusing on solutions rather than dwelling on problems. Think about how often life's challenges can feel overwhelming. Her example encourages us to act with faith and determination, no matter the odds. The Shunammite's journey reminds us that faith doesn't shield us from hardships, but equips us to face them with courage. Her resilience was rooted in her belief that God's power, working through Elisha, could restore what was lost. Her story invites us to consider how we respond to adversity. Do we give in to despair, or do we take steps of faith toward restoration? Her next steps would set the stage for a divine intervention that would redefine her life. The Shunammite woman's response to her son's death was not one of panic, but of decisive faith. Without disclosing her grief to anyone, she set out to find Elisha, the man of God who had prophesied her son's birth. In 2 Kings 4 verses 22-24, her words to her husband, "It shall be well," reveal her determination to trust in divine intervention. Her silence about her pain wasn't denial. It was an act of focusing her faith on the solution rather than the problem. This journey to Elisha showcases the power of faith-driven action. Imagine leaving everything behind, carrying your broken heart but refusing to give up hope. Her boldness in seeking the prophet directly teaches us to take our deepest struggles to God, trusting that He has the power to restore. Think about the areas in your life where action could align with faith. What steps can you take to seek God's help actively? Her faith was not passive. It was persistent. Even when questioned by Gehazi, Elisha's servant, she refused to be distracted from her goal. This unwavering trust serves as a reminder that faith often requires us to press forward despite obstacles. Her determination sets the stage for a moment of divine power that would transform her tragedy into triumph. When the Shunammite woman reached Elisha, her faith met divine power. In 2 Kings 4 verses 33-35, Elisha prayed over the lifeless boy, demonstrating unwavering belief in God's ability to restore life. His persistence in prayer and action, stretching himself over the child twice, illustrates how faith and effort work together to invite miracles. Imagine the moment the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. It was a tangible sign of God's intervention and the result of relentless trust. This event shows that restoration often requires persistence and partnership with God. Elisha's actions remind us that faith isn't passive. It calls for bold prayers and expectant hearts. How often do we stop praying before the breakthrough comes? The Shunammite story encourages us to press on, trusting that God's timing and methods are perfect, even when they defy logic or delay. The boy's revival became a powerful testimony of God's authority over life and death. For the Shunammite woman, it was more than the return of her son. It was a confirmation of her unwavering faith and God's faithfulness. This restoration reveals how trust in divine power can transform despair into joy, inviting us to consider how steadfast belief might bring renewal in our own lives. The Shunammite woman's faith continued to guide her through difficult times. In 2 Kings 8 verses 1-2, Elisha warned her of an impending 7-year famine and advised her to leave her land temporarily. Her obedience to this prophetic guidance demonstrates her trust in God's plan, even when it meant stepping into the unknown. Imagine uprooting your family and leaving behind everything you've built. It's an act of faith that reflects reliance on God's provision in uncertain times. Her journey during the famine highlights the importance of following divine direction. By trusting Elisha's counsel, she safeguarded her family from devastation. This teaches us the value of seeking God's wisdom through prayer and His Word, especially when faced with life-altering decisions. Think of moments when you've had to make tough choices. Turning to God for clarity can provide the confidence to move forward, even when the path isn't clear. Adversity often becomes a stage for God's faithfulness to shine. The Shunammite woman's story encourages us to remain steadfast, knowing that divine guidance can turn trials into opportunities for growth and restoration. Her obedience didn't just preserve her family. It set the foundation for a future restoration of what was lost, showing how God's plans always work for the good of those who trust Him. The Shunammite woman's faith reached its culmination when God restored her land and its yields. In 2 Kings 8 verses 3-6, after returning from 7 years of famine, she approached the king to request her property back. By divine timing, Elisha's servant was recounting her story to the king at that exact moment. This coincidence was a clear sign of God's hand at work, orchestrating justice in her favor. Imagine the relief and joy of seeing everything she had lost returned abundantly. Her story reveals that faith doesn't just endure, it prevails. The king not only granted her land back, but also ordered that all its profits from the years of famine be restored to her. This act of divine justice reminds us that God is not only a restorer, but a rewarder of those who trust Him. Think of moments when you've seen what seemed impossible suddenly align in your favor. It's often a reflection of God's perfect plan unfolding. The restoration of the Shunammite woman's land is a testament to the power of steadfast belief and divine timing. Her journey teaches us to remain faithful during seasons of loss, trusting that God's justice will prevail. This story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of adversity, God's plans for restoration and abundance far exceed human expectations. How does this story challenge your perspective on faith and action? The Shunammite woman's journey wasn't easy, yet her unwavering belief turned tragedy into triumph and loss into restoration. What about you? Are there areas in your life where you need to trust God's timing or take bold steps of faith? Remember, miracles often begin with simple acts of obedience and trust. Take a moment to reflect. What can you do today to align your actions with your faith? Maybe it's extending generosity to someone in need, praying boldly for a breakthrough, or holding on to God's promises during a tough season. Small steps of faith can lead to extraordinary outcomes when you trust in His power.